like to call the February 5th meeting of the Mount Vernon City School District Board of Education to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Trustee Patterson, Trustee Miller, Trustee Williams, Trustee McOwen,
Present.
Trustee Ning, Trustee Jaros,
Here.
Trustee Saunders,
Here.
Trustee Torres, Trustee White.
Present.
Quorum is present.
Communications from the public.
Good evening and thank you. The Mount Vernon Board of Education recognizes the critical importance of community discourse and involvement in the education of Mount Vernon's children, and accordingly, members of the public are invited to speak at each regularly scheduled board meeting, subject to the terms of board policy. Speakers must register in advance by no later than 4 p.m. on the date of the meeting by contacting the district clerk in person at 165 North Columbus Avenue, by phone at 914-665-5235, or via email at rmccormack@mtvernoncsd.org. The board welcomes all respectful comment, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, or other Mount Vernon education official or employee is strictly prohibited. Such complaints must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak, with up to an additional minute to be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. If appropriate, board trustees and/or the superintendent or staff members at the direction of the superintendent may respond to a speaker's comments following public comment. Our first speaker this evening is Brenda L. Crump.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I will start out with some praises and compliments. Well, this is becoming a habit here. I want to thank the district for, can't hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I thought you said you couldn't hear me. I want to thank the district for addressing and taking a look at the grading practice that the district have in developing a policy. The district is on the right track, a good track with that. My concerns are, I'm not quite clear if the board will be voting on that tonight or not. I'm hoping not. That is something that's been needed to be worked on for many years, that I've continuously brought back and fought with different administrations up until now, this administration. And so now it's finally being addressed. So I hope that we're not going to rush through that, because it's very important. And we take the time and really deal with all of our constituents being involved in it. And I have some ideas that I have shared with Dr. Walden in regards to how we can open it up more to more constituent involvement. So I hope that we take our time with that. Also, I want to inform the board of the Marines Educator Workshop that's coming up. I think Trustee Saunders, she's been here for a while. You might be familiar with it. But the Marine Corps has an educators workshop that they do, and it's an all-expense-paid trip, airfare, lodging, and meals. And what they want to do is take the time to educate those who are involved with young people, and also for post-education with young people. And it tells you all about what the Marines are really about. And it's not just the branches of the military, how people think sometimes of the branches of the military, but all the educational components and the opportunities that the military presents in regards to the Marines. So when I was on the board, I think it was when I was on the board, we had, some trustees and community people, because it's open for people like in the Boys and Girls Club, for Mount Vernon Recreation. We had some people go there. We had a nice representation from our city that participated in this, and then the hope is to bring the information back and to inform, enlighten, educate the community abroad. So I'm going to forward the board members that information. Hopefully maybe we'll see some of our board members that might want to attend, as well as our counseling staff. So the information is also sent to them because they're working with the young people as well. So hopefully the board will disseminate this information beyond yourself and open it up and approve whichever staff member may want to attend, and they turnkey back to the district. So I'm going to reserve the rest of my comments until I see the presentation, and perhaps talk with Dr. Walden more and see what the board is going to do going from this point forward in regards to the grading policy, retention, promotion. I do have some concerns, but I'm going to reserve on those until I see the presentation and see what the board is going to do from there. But I am asking that the board do not vote on this resolution tonight, that you take some more time to really vet this out and really involve all the stakeholders so that we can move from good, better, best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes speaking.
Oh, okay, thank you. Reports of the superintendent.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
A couple of things I'd like to share with you this evening. To begin, I will be presenting testimony tomorrow in Albany on behalf of the district and as representation of one of the Big Five school districts. As you know, Mount Vernon is now recognized as an affiliate member of the Big Five. There were two districts who were afforded that opportunity. That was Utica and Mount Vernon. So I will be speaking very specifically on equalization aid and some factors that I think in the governor's budget planning process, particularly as it relates to the distribution of state aid to public schools, that there are factors that are systemic in communities like Mount Vernon, but Mount Vernon in particular, that may not be on his radar, and I think it's important for him to hear that. So I will be making a journey to Albany tomorrow to represent our district, and I will give you a full report on what happens after that. Also, this evening, I just want to remind the board members that on this Thursday, we will be having the ribbon cutting ceremony at Edward Williams School, and that's scheduled for 10 a.m. And then there are 3 presentations tonight that we will be providing. One is on the Avid program, which is Advancement via Individual Determination. You've been hearing a lot about. So this evening, we have students who are going to facilitate the discussion with you through various centers that they have set up so that you have a firsthand experience about what Avid is about. Dr. Walden will be talking about our grading and retention policy. And that committee has been working for about a year now, and she'll give you more insight on who the participants are and the constituents that Mrs. Crump referenced in her comments earlier. And then we're going to share with you our ribbon cutting, our redistricting plan. We've been talking about how the additional class space at Pennington would take some of the relief off of some of our buildings and give us the capacity to move forward with the full implementation of the 2020 vision. So we will be talking about that tonight, including a timetable. And then we will move into executive session, and there are a few items for that. But to begin, before we get into presentations, there are a couple of change orders that I'd like Mr. Policio and Mr. Baviello to kind of walk you through that are on your agenda tonight. They're not a lot at all this evening, so this portion should not take long at all.
Good evening.
Good evening, Michael.
As the superintendent said, I'm happy to report there's only 7 change orders this evening, and 3 of them are credits. So we are, as the projects are starting to wind down, these will exponentially diminish as well. The first one is the 5 schools, Piazza Brothers. It is to provide labor and materials to complete the demolition of 3 additional air ducts at Parker. So after the plans were done, we made some shifts. We had to demolish some air ducts that were in the way at Parker School. Second one is a credit. We had a sewer ejector pump that was eliminated from the project scope. Third one, also a credit. Shaft walls eliminated from the project scope as well in 3 different locations. This is also Piazza Brothers on the 5 schools. Next one, also a credit from Bertucci Plumbing, which is Pearl River, and that's a credit for fire smoke dampers eliminated from the project at Williams. The dampers were not necessary. We already had coverage along that roof line. Thornton School, small change order, to reinstall 2 existing radiators which were previously removed. So they're removed in part of the initial demolition, and then once they were put back in, it was an unforeseen field condition, so we were able to put them back in. At Graham School, to reroute some condensing pipes, and there was a leak over their cafeteria, so we just rerouted some of the pipes. And then this is an old change order from Talt Electric. It had to do with the trailers that we had here when we were doing work renovation in this building. This has already been paid. This is just a paperwork thing that we needed to do tonight. And that is it, sir.
Thank you. And now I'm going to ask, thank you, Michael, appreciate it, Mr. Baviello. I'm going to ask Dr. Gorman if he would kind of give the board a preview of what they should anticipate tonight as they interact with our students and how Avid is doing in our district.
Good evening, everyone. All right, so we're bringing out the kids today, and Avid last year, President White and Dr. Ning accompanied us to Thornton to watch a Socratic seminar in one of our classes there. And then we continue to get some questions about the buzz of Avid and what it is and what is it really doing and is it impactful in our district. So today we have a really special presentation, and we're going to need you to interact with our kids in our stations. I'll tell you about those stations in a minute. Before we start, though, I'd like to just show you a 2-minute video, an intro video on Avid that you could see on your screen. You could just move me through. Yep.
We are made with the desire to dream, to create, and to explore.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We are purpose-built with the need to connect with each other, to solve problems, to change perspectives, and to inspire others that we may become the best of who we were meant to be.
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world.
We exist to strive, to grow our minds, and develop into tomorrow's leaders.
No matter what path you choose, no matter what dreams you have got to do whatever it takes to continue your education after high school.
We are the creators of our own stories, writing our unique history by overcoming challenges, showing resilience, and building a support system worthy of ourselves, our families, and our communities. In that world, our world, barriers are broken, ceilings shattered, and the future thrives. We are the capable ones, capable of exceeding expectations, doing anything, and becoming what we want. We are Avid. This is our world. We are limitless.
Great. So this is our first graduating Avid class, and as I'm watching this video, I'm like, boy, am I glad I am not the teacher of those kids, because I would not be able to keep a dry tear from coming out. Our kids have been with their Avid teachers for over 4 years. Our high school teachers, they're entering their 4th year for us. We've expanded Avid to 9 sites, 5 elementaries, our secondary schools, and we've really hit the market in a really big way with our E&L learners this year. Keeping with the Avid spirit of a student-centered, student-driven way of learning, we wanted to show you and model it, because we didn't want to stand there and just tell you about it. We wanted you to engage in it. So I invite you, the audience, and our Board of Education. We have 5 different stations. Let me tell you what they are as you interact with them. Students will talk to you. They will show you artifacts. They will talk to you about data. They will ask questions. Please ask them questions. They're transparent. I was so confident in this presentation that we did not even practice before because I know how passionate Avid is when it's working well, and it's starting to really work well. One school came in and said, "Where's our table? We want our own table." I said, "Hold on, we'll get you a table." So we have our E&L program. It's called Avid XL out here in the first station. Our second one is our tutorology. You hear about Avid tutors a lot, and it's a very different way of providing support for kids. It's inquiry-based. It's not a traditional way of tutoring. You'll never see a one-on-one where the tutor's telling a kid what to do. It's a very dynamic way of inquiry-based learning and higher-level thinking. In the back, we have 3 of our Avid seniors. Ask them about their journey. Ask them about their experience. Ask them about when they hit some tough points in their second year when they weren't sure if they wanted to continue, and talk to their teacher who's been with them for 4 years. In the far back, we have our Avid administrators. They have some data to show you. They're going to speak to you about what Avid has done for 4 components, and this is our whole reform model that we use: leadership, systems, culture, and instruction. And when those 4 components go, leadership, instruction, culture, and instruction, when those 4 things are moving, you get a really special product. And I think you're going to see a really special product today. And then we have 2 of our elementary Avid tables set up. We have parents and students here that will talk to you about their Avid experience. So let's say we'll give you about 15 minutes to interact, move yourself around, ask questions. Audience, please participate. It is definitely the Avid way, and I'm sure the kids are going to do you proud. So we'll start now.
Okay.
Great,
How much
thank you.
time do you have allocated for this trip?
I wanted to give each station at least 2 or 3 minutes to visit. So if we go 5 stations, 15 to 20 minutes, or when I feel that, there's a natural time to come back, we'll come back.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So this is the Excel table.
I'm responsible for that.
Oh, I have a whole. What school? Columbus. Well, welcome. I know the elementary school tables are on the other side. How are you?
I took a power nap, so I wasn't sure if I missed you. Oh my God, I wish I could have said that. I missed your call.
Nope, not at all.
Okay. Okay. You need anything? You're good?
Yeah, I think we're good. Here's these if you want them.
Oh, okay.
I think we'll take like 1 or 2.
Glad to welcome a new cadre.
Okay.
Come on, Barn. How can you tell? I don't know how many times I've done it.
And mind you, you can't even tell.
So I'll take your binder.
That's the one. Yeah. That's like you guys.
And then, yeah, I know.
She's a good partner to work with.
How are you? All right, so talk to me. What is?
Well, do you have your phone?
I do.
Can you take your camera and scroll on
You don't want us to get
And can you open that? And that is a testimonial from one of the Avid Excel kids from Mount Vernon 8th grade.
Okay, very good. So each one of these is a different student?
But here, and then we have students from Columbus live.
Okay. So talk to me.
Avid Excel to share with Dr. Hamilton what we've been doing.
Is it a good classroom because you get really engage with the students that you're talking to with about their work and stuff, and you really start to listen to what other kids have to say and their opinion on what you're doing, and they help you throughout.
So if you had to choose between Avid and another elective, would you still pick Avid? Why?
And it gives us a better mindset. So like when we're in college, we're not like fighting with all these people because we're getting prepared right now.
Okay, very good. Okay. Awesome. This is tutorology. Okay.
Hi. So these are our beautiful tutors, Bryant and Aaron Zazu. They are going to tell you how the process is a little different. It's not a one-on-one approach. It's an inquiry process using the Socratic method. So, and they can say how it's different than anything they've experienced.
So I'll introduce myself. My name is Brian Aleskis. I'm a Baruch college student, graduated from Mount Vernon City School District, so I'm very proud to be back. So I think what makes tutorology very unique from other regular tutoring is the fact that, again, it's not one-on-one, it's group collaboration, and the fact that we're not there to teach them, we're there to guide them through the process, questioning and kind of like leading and helping them out tutorology.
Yeah, this is actually my first year doing the tutorology, so I was pretty excited to see how it would work out. And from the beginning all the way to where we are now, I can definitely see the change. The motivation that they started to put in their work, their collaboration, it's
They utilize a 10-step process of problem solving. So even if we don't have a tutor in the classroom, the students from as young as 7th grade are taught this problem solving technique where they go around and they present their problems. And then as a group they solve together. So they are taught how to solve the group together and collaborate. And the tutors are there to help facilitate it, but let's say they're on spring break. We'll be able to still continue our process because they've taught the students so well.
So having college students now, when you reflect back on your high school experience, what skills are students leaving with now as a result of Avid that you may not have had the opportunity to have?
So many skills. For example, a lot of what the students have to do is present. They have to go out and present. The way I am right now, they have to go out and present in a group of 7 or so, and that does teach them presentation skills, speech skills, as well as the way to present themselves. So that's definitely a skill I wish I learned during high school, as well as a lot of organizing. They have to Cornell notes, binders. They have to make sure that they're on top of all their subject areas. So the way that they're taught to do it, I really wish that I had the chance to do it. So it's really amazing to see them with this opportunity.
Good. Thank you very much. Very well done.
A question and where you answer a question like work that you've been given, and you can write the answer right next to your notes column, so that way it's like right side by side to each other. That's great. I mean, you'll learn that what separates average people from great people is not knowledge; it's the ability to ask questions and ask the right question. So that's super important. That's great. It's a great skill. And it will help you, not just in college, but in your whole life. Yeah, that's great. All right, awesome job. I'm going to go check out some of the tables.
So how important is this Avid binder?
Very
So instead of having 6 or 7 of these for each class, you have one binder that has all your subjects together and all your papers. For example, Spanish I have right here. Instead of having it in a separate folder, I have it right here, so I don't have to look in my book bag for my papers, make sure I'm ready, I'm already prepared. For my notes, they're all right here. This is the Corno Notes way, so
For Spanish or for any subject, I always put my do now question here, and then I answer it right here. And so that way when I go back to my notes, I know that this question goes with this answer goes with this question, and it really helps a lot.
When I first learned about Avid, I actually taught my own kids how to use the Cornell notes, and it made a huge difference in the organization. Huge difference. Very good. Well, so how long have you been in Avid?
Since 9th grade.
And what grade are you now?
12.
So you're, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you feel ready?
I feel more prepared for college than if I wasn't in Avid. Like, I know that Avid has definitely helped me prepare myself at an earlier age to apply for college and be prepared. Like 10th grade, we were already looking for colleges, we were already building our resume. 11th grade, by the end of that 11th grade, we were already finished with our essay, a resume, and we already knew what colleges we were going to. And beginning of 12th grade was just apply, that was it.
So did you end up taking any higher level courses?
Yes, I took AP English in 11th grade, and I'm taking AP Literature now.
Do you think you would have still have done that if you weren't in Avid?
It might have been a challenge to get in there, but Avid definitely helped me. Encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone.
And we have two other young ladies. Do you have anything to say?
I joined Avid in my 10th grade. I was in a original one, but my friends told me about how Avid helped them, so I decided to talk to my counselor and transfer it to Avid. But I feel like I didn't know a lot about the college research or any of that, so Avid helped me a lot. I was really clueless when I got to that point, but it helped me a lot.
And Destiny, do you have anything to say?
Well, I was there since 9th grade, but I'd say that not only is it academic, but it's also, the relationships that you build over time. I was very, I was very shy, but eventually, I opened up more to my classmates, my teacher, because of that 4-year relationship, and after a while, it just built.
Very good. You did a good job presenting.
So new this year, we all have our shirts. What is a sample? This is one of our quotes. I'm trying to figure it out. Right, I just have to try. That's, the bare minimum.
Can I see that? Can I see that?
Oh,
So how's your role different?
I learned some
being Avid site?
Okay. So it has changed tremendously because when we began, it started with our 6th graders, our 6th grade and our teachers, and now it's more than 6th grade. Now they're getting 7th, K-6. So it's more embedded in the culture, building wide, what it looks like in the elementary setting versus now that we have those schools functioning as an elementary.
Eventually, after a while, I was
So is there like a little Avid community amongst you guys? I like that. Great. Keep up the good work.
So what are you planning to do like
She's had a recent graduate, so she knows all the questions.
Cool, man. See ya. It's been a while. Right.
So every classroom is rotating, right?
I gotta get out.
Amendments or add-ons
Definitely.
to languages, like the summary, the vocabulary, questions. And this one, I think we did 2 different ones.
I'm sorry.
Spotlight, fears and phobia, life doesn't frighten people.
I love the way you have to present the information graphically, especially in my profession. One of the things you learn in school is how important it is to be able to present your information graphically and visually so that people understand it and how it's organized. It's really good.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. Welcome to Columbus School. You guys want to share any of your favorite strategies? Share one that you've shared before, and Mike.
One pages. I love one pages. I just like it because it's like a new way to display information about what you're reading, like in a nice, fun way. But you're still like doing. It's basically like doing an essay, but like like in different parts. And we do questions, summaries, vocabulary, and we just we do like 2 drawings, and then we just display different ideas and
like it sees other people's opinions. So if you write down like a certain topic that we're researching on, you can hear other kids' opinions, like if they disagree with you, what they think about that topic, which can help you get more ideas on when you need to do like final drafts and stuff like this.
How do you think this is going to help you on test time?
Test time, maybe just by building up ideas, it will make your brain more complex. So when you have those bigger 2-point short questions, they get easier.
Good. Good. Well done. Good job. Good job. Wicker.
Hello, how are you?
How are you?
Welcome to Columbus School.
Thank you. Bend the line. What's this strategy?
Oh, Omarion, there you go. Your favorite one. You're up.
So bend the line is basically where you write down something and there's 2 different lines, 2 different lines facing each other. So we basically, let's say we're both at 2 different lines, you would be facing them.
Similar to how we are now? Okay.
So I would be talking to you about how I feel about a certain topic.
Okay.
You tell me if you agree or disagree with that, what you feel, and then we switch roles. You tell me what you think of that topic, and I tell you if I disagree.
Awesome.
And then what does the bend the line refer to?
The bend is basically where one line just shifts to the side, so you have like a different person to see.
Did it take you a long time to get adjusted to getting your binders together?
Flushing out all the ideas and getting all
Yeah, I know that's a lot of work. That's usually what people have the hardest time with, getting their binders organized. Once you get them done, though, they're good, right?
You know what? This is what we used to do at school when I was a kid. You know, it's coming full circle. Because we did have the binders.
And then they get to flush out ideas, and then, they get to bend and hear other ideas.
Sometimes this old folks are the best.
At the end of a lesson, you'll use a variety of reasons or ways, and they can do it.
Like an introduction to like debate club.
True, absolutely. Do you want to share one of your favorites? Yeah, what do you want to share? Everybody's sick, you know?
Oh, was this Avid came up with this?
So we adopted it over at Columbus, and so grades K to 3 use #cup, and then as the grades go on, then we add the A in the question mark. So it's building wise. So every grade is marking the text the same way, just increasing in complexity.
Do you guys have anything, kind of acronyms like for, like the instructional, different, like, the instructions? So do you have anything like to kind of break down the instructions?
The the instructions for?
You know, it depends. ELA, so if you're doing social studies, math, you know, sometimes the instructions can kind of throw you off a little bit.
How are you?
How do you use grading and scoring these questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm just gonna move everybody back in and take any
The
questions.
Avid students to non-Avid students so that they can learn too, and then also families and other community members who came in that night. So again, it was all student run. The kids made all the posters, and they took, just like we have the stations tonight, they took over the stations, and they talked and they presented. That's Avid. Kids doing what they need to do without being prompted to do. It's been great. I know. Your kids would love Avid. Your students would have loved it. Your Timothy and Destiny would have really liked it.
I'm saying it straight up. I don't know.
My name's Aldo. So how you feel about Avid?
Well, you know, Avid is well, it helps a lot. It's just, you know, the program that they have in place right now. It's really good and it's effective in helping, you know, college stuff and just achieving a higher education with like the TRFs, the tutor request forms that they have, and the fact that we had been exposed to the college application process prior to being a senior really helps, and it also keeps you motivated to wanting to get that higher education, achieve a associate's, a bachelor's, a master's degree. And also, without Avid, you know, it helps a lot of organization skills. Me being a very unorganized person, it definitely helped a lot because it's like, it's almost enforced that you have to be organized. And so it doesn't only help in the classroom, but rather outside, being able to organize and time management as well. Organize yourself, organize the things you have, organize your schoolwork. It helps a lot. The tutors that are in place right now, they help since we have a bunch of AP courses. Most of us, we have APs, SUPAs, and these tutors help a lot because in class you're confronted with a bunch of questions, and sometimes time doesn't permit to have the teacher answer all your questions. So completing the TRFs and having the tutors come in help us. They help a lot. They help us obviously increase our GPA. All of us in Avid are above average in our GPAs. And, you know, just getting into the colleges, being able to apply early admission because we already had a heads up in the college process, got us accepted into a lot more scholarship, for a lot more colleges and higher scholarship opportunities. So Avid has been like really good help and everything. Aldo Cervantes.
Caitlin Acevedo.
Natalie Hernandez.
Destiny Cachuto.
We love Avid.
To me, is that this is what you're being taught.
My name is Reginald Edward. My name is Georgiana Morgan, and we love Avid.
Go.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Quateri, and I'm an Avid Excel teacher at Columbus School.
My name is Ashley Valentin, and I am an Avid student, and I go to Columbus School.
So as a teacher, tell me, has Avid helped students? How have you seen it help students?
Well, the impact for Avid Excel on my students is that they are able to control their language, they're confident, they stand up tall and share. So seeing L's do that is amazing.
And as a student, how has Avid helped you?
It helps me talk more and express myself more with other students, and if I'm confused with something, the students help me a lot with the problems I'm having.
As a teacher teaching Avid, do you recommend it expanding in the district?
Absolutely, yes.
Just as a teacher, how you recommend it expanding in the district?
As a teacher, I recommend that Avid expands in the district for the benefit of our students.
Favorite subject?
ELA.
ELA. So how does Avid help you in ELA?
It helps me with my reading, understanding, and when I'm confused with something, I get to ask my teacher, and good question.
There you go.
My name is Francisco Thierry. I teach Avid Excel at Columbus.
My name is Ashley, and I am an Avid student at Columbus.
We love Avid.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ann. I'm the mother of an Avid student.
Hi, I'm Marian Seymour, and I am an Avid student.
What school you go to?
I go to Columbus School.
So, Mom, tell me, how has Avid helped? Have you seen Avid help your child in his schoolwork?
Yes, it has. It has helped him to not only to stay focused, it helps him with organization and just in general, not just schoolwork, but at home, his behavior. He really didn't have a behavioral problem, but it has just improved him. He's more focused even when he's home, not just in schoolwork, but just anything in general that you've asked him to do.
Well, Avid has helped me by, like, it keeps me organized, it keeps me focused, like, it keeps me in check, and it helps me get my brain more complex. Like, the strategies that we use in everyday classes and stuff like that, they really help me a lot. Like, let's say if I'm doing one of my Avid strategies that's like bend a line or something like that, that helps me because I can get to hear everybody else's opinion, and it gives me a boost of ideas.
So overall, Avid has helped you become a better student.
Yes.
Carrie Ann, mother of Avid students.
My name is Marian Seymour, and I'm a student of Avid. And
We love Avid.
Boom.
Hi, I'm Ruth Acevedo, and I'm an Avid parent.
My name is Caitlin Acevedo. I am in Thornton High School, and I'm a senior in high school, 12th grade.
Mom, have you seen Avid make a difference in your child's life?
Absolutely. My daughter's gained confidence. She's also improved tremendously and is very organized now with the Avid program.
So you're happy with Avid? You feel comfortable that it's going to help her to the next level?
Yes, actually she's very prepared. Her college resume was impeccable and actually has resulted in a few acceptances, although we're waiting for some more.
So as a parent of Avid, what advice would you give to other parents?
I would definitely consider this program. This program has taught Caitlin to really dig deep down inside herself to see where she wanted to go academically, and has definitely proven to herself that she can continue forward and succeed.
Student, how has Avid helped you?
Avid has helped me learn the college application process more at an earlier age. I was able to research colleges 10th grade, and by the end of 11th grade, already have my essay, my resume, and know which colleges I want to apply to. So by my senior year, I would just apply and snap my finger.
So you're chilling your senior year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So what advice would you give to your fellow students now that you're a senior? What advice would you give to your fellow students?
You need to work hard and look at colleges at an earlier age, like 10th grade, 9th grade, even though senior year seems so far from now or then, you know, it'll be very good when you're in 12th grade and you don't have to worry about college applications and your essay and your resume and getting them to your guidance counselor on time. It's just easier.
And Avid really helped put you in that perspective.
Yes, Avid encouraged me to take higher level courses. Definitely encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone. I learned a lot from Avid and am happy that I was a part of it.
Hi, my name is Ruth Acevedo, and I'm an Avid parent.
My name is Caitlin Acevedo. I'm in Thornton High School.
We love Avid.
I'm sorry,
Hold on.
make sure you mention you're an Avid Excel tutor, and that's for the ENL students, because that differentiates you, because you do scholar groups as opposed to traditional tutorology, although it's the same methodologies in some ways. But I definitely want you to, sorry.
No, it's cool, director, we good. Alright, when we're gonna go from your side, boom, boom, alright? So when I point name, college you go to, if you want, and I get into questions. Actually, you say your name and I'm an Avid tutor, right? All right, so go.
Hi, I'm Aris Lady Marmolejos. I go to Berkeley College and I'm an Avid Excel tutor.
Hi, my name is Brian Alescas. I go to Baruch College and I'm an Avid tutor.
Hi, I'm Erin Zazo Alescas and I go to Lehman College and I'm an Avid tutor.
So, starting with you, tell me how you feel about being an Avid tutor.
Being an Avid tutor is very rewarding because we get to see the process of how the kids excel in their classes, and overall it's just a really rewarding job.
So as a Mount Vernon City School District graduate, it's really great to be back and help out the community that I grew up in and seeing the progress with all the students that we get to work with. It's a very rewarding job.
Being as I didn't know what Avid was, it was really interesting to see from the beginning till the end the different changes and the improvement that the students were able to put into their work. It really shows, it really does.
Did you guys have Avid when you was in high school?
No.
So, do you think kids today that have it is in a much better position than you guys were when you were juniors and seniors? Let's talk to that a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. They learn a lot of skills that we didn't get to learn, especially working in groups a lot, and the whole inquiry process is very interesting to be able to guide them with that.
Right, so other than helping them with their regular schoolwork, I think that Avid does help with presentation skills, collaboration skills, teamwork, and all those skills that I guess we didn't have the chance to really work on during high school.
Yeah, adding to what he said, it's not necessarily a limitation about what you get to learn. It goes from math to science to life skills. There's no limit to what they can learn.
So Avid's not about just a certain course, it's a way of life almost.
Yes. Avid is a way of life.
Everything's a way of life. All right, so point to you, and then name, and we love Avid, right?
I'm Aris Lady Marmolejos.
Oh.
So one more time, we're gonna start from the beginning again. Ready?
I'm Aris Lady Marmolejos.
I'm Brian Alescas.
I'm Erin Zazo.
And we love Avid.
I saw her this morning at 11 o'clock.
Okay, Dr. Hamilton, we ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me wrap up with you. I'd like to also bring in all of our participants, all of our students, our teachers, our administrators, our parents real quick. So I'd like to hear some of your feedback towards them. Just some quick pieces about Avid. Remember I talked to you about leadership, culture, systems, instruction, and I did this activity at a workshop actually with Avid as a key implementer for our district, and they talked about what are the things that you noticed before Avid was in the district and after Avid was in the district. And I think that first one that I've listed about the teacher-student relationship is probably one of the most profound things that we've seen, and that collective efficacy that teachers and children are connected more than just here's the information goes such a long way. And I know our kids are really not only for themselves and their parents and families, but they don't want to let their teachers down. And I know our teachers absolutely love our children. And that word love I use very, very importantly here. It is about love and care and their legacy with our children. So that's very important. Some other things that you could glance as we move forward. My clicker's not clicking, but that's okay. If you want to just move me a few. Some students, standardized tests, we're seeing an increase, so more kids are taking 4-year standardized tests and PSATs. Continuity of instruction, so now Avid is, if kids are taking notes in 2nd grade, they're taking those same type of notes in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So that continuity of instruction means that we're really educating a whole child from when they get here to when they leave us and beyond. There's a feel of college readiness, and there's a culture that is more vibrant and exciting in a college, in an Avid classroom and an Avid school. So these are just some highlights of before and after, and I'm not saying for 1 second that because Avid this is happening, But in conjunction to everything that we're doing, this is having a major impact on the type of instruction and the type of classrooms that we're trying to see with our kids. Just some quotes from some of our students and some of our teachers and kids. I was at a Williams workshop, and they're not here tonight because they've been really thrown in this year to sort of get on board. And we had a trainer doing an Avid carousel activity. The staff wouldn't stop. They said, let's take a break. They're like, no, 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 because they liked the activity and they were so engaged. That level of engagement you'll see relatively all the time in our Avid classrooms. So I wanted to just possibly give you guys some, a chance to make some comments on what you heard from our kids and our students and our administrators. And they are here also. And then I'm probably sure that we could give them an Avid whoosh or a Cracker Jack. All right. So you'd like to give us some feedback, Dr. Hamilton?
Well, having been exposed to Avid for several years now, and I know the benefit of Avid, I was very pleased to see our children be able to explain, number one, what they were doing, and secondly, how to apply their learning in and out of context. So I was very happy to see that. I was also very pleased to see the dedication of our staff who are here and the amount of time it takes to invest in learning Avid and the Avid strategies and how that ultimately changes an entire culture. And while we look at how Avid is implemented at a particular grade or at a particular school, it really is there are a series of strategies that benefit all kids, whether or not whether they're in the Avid program or not, because it's not like teachers can turn off what they learn when they're working with non-Avid students. So that was the other thing that, as I was walking around and listening to teachers and administrators, one of my takeaways.
Any other comments by the board? I was just impressed with that they're confident that they could stand up and talk about everything. I was really impressed, especially the elementary school ones. I was very impressed with them.
I was also, and they explained it very well, clearly. You know, I'm very impressed, blown away. Congratulations and thank you.
Well, I was trying to recruit some new teachers from the Avid tutors, so I told them who I was and what I do, and if they ever want to become teachers, to stop by my office, come there. This is how you begin a career. You don't know what you're getting into, but suddenly you are attracted because one-on-one tutoring is one of the best methods, of really getting involved, and it benefits the students greatly. Having them work in small groups. We do have, these type of programs. We encourage. In fact, it's a requirement for our undergrads, and those who are seeking teacher certification to start by observing, by working with smaller groups and gradually getting into large group teaching. So this is how you get that love for teaching, and I encourage them to really look into teaching as a career. I'm sure they're doing a great job given, what these students are, have displayed here.
Can we give them a round of applause?
First, they want to give you an Avid clap. We're not practiced. We're raw and we're live. Get that way with one of our Avid students, teachers, administrators, lead us in an Avid clap.
All right, I got you.
There you go.
This is the Avid whoosh. So it's tap, 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 tap. Let's try it first. Now, for real. Ready?
Bravo.
Thank you.
Can we make comments too? Here, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. We
got
have
more
some more comments.
I don't think my mic is on. Is my mic on?
Your mic is on.
Is it on? No, go ahead. Go ahead, yeah.
Guys, I just want to say that you guys represent the best of the best. Parents, you guys, I mean, the enthusiasm on the teachers, the students, and the parents, you guys' energy is all matched. You really couldn't tell the parent from the teacher, and the students were, it was hard to kind of pinpoint which grade you guys were in. So that's a real testament to your confidence, like Madam President said, and we'd like you guys to, just continue to keep pushing. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, and you're clearly the next leaders of Mount Vernon, so we want to keep, continue to give you that support that you need, and you guys can always come to the district if you need any assistance. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great to see some former Mount Vernon students come back as tutors. That's awesome. Thank you for giving back to your alma mater. And I just want to say that it's a great program, and what's very obvious to me is that this is what you're being taught is the skill of learning, right? That is what Avid is all about, is learning how to learn, and that is a skill that's really the whole point of going to school. It's not to become a scientist. It's not to become a doctor or a nurse or an auto repair person or whatever. That's not what it's about. It's about learning the skill of learning, and that's the skill you take with you, and that's what Avid is clearly instilling in you. So bravo, I think it's great.
Well said, and I do want to comment also, even though Avid is school-wide elementary, in the secondary, it really targets the middle student that has potential, and that's what we're looking for, the kids that have potential that it's just not developed yet, because in theory, our gifted kids have AP courses and other opportunities, and our special needs kids have services and supports there, but there's a lot of kids that have fallen through the cracks over the year, and so these kids that have potential are really the ones that we want to target, and like you said, the act of learning is for everyone, and so it benefits everyone, but it is not they're so impressive, you would think that these are the brightest and best that we have, and they are, in addition to the other ones that we have as well. And so that's an important piece to know, that it's not an elite program, but they are incredibly proud of the work that they've done and will continue to do. So thank you for giving us a little time. I know we ran over a little bit, but I think it was worth it for you guys to interact with the kids.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for doing such an outstanding job. Next, under the superintendent's report, we are actually going to move into our grading and retention policy. Dr. Walden?
Good evening.
Evening.
I stand before you absolutely excited. That was a phenomenal Avid presentation. And so it just works out beautifully to discuss the actual policies that would impact our students. With that being said, I convened a committee that consisted of district administrators, school principals, assistant principals, teachers from pre-K, elementary, middle, and high school levels, along with department chairs, a counselor, and our representatives from our collective bargaining units, in particular the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers and our administrators. Had several meetings from spring 2017 to actually yesterday with various committees really looking at our current district policy, and also looking at other district policies from the New York State School Board Association, some sample policies from there, from Westchester counties, New York City, and we looked at current research and literature, really utilizing the book and the work of Susan Brockhart, How to Use Grading to Improve Learning. So I'll pass this around so that you can actually take a look at that, and I have one for our community as well. And so with the literature and some of the thinking behind it, we wanted to see what was working and what was not working in terms of how students were being promoted, retained, as well as how they were being graded. So that being said, what were some of the things that we found in terms of our operating procedures? Understanding that it's around raising the standard, believing that our students are able and will be college and career ready. So one of the things that we noted was a student could be retained once from grades 3 through 8. And as we are actually manifesting our 2020 vision, a student now we're proposing can be retained once, K through 8. Understanding that with our full-day pre-K program and a number of our early interventions, we're able to really support our younger students. We're able to really engage in the phonemic awareness and the early literacy strategies that's needed for later success. But really the optimal time, if there's any conversation around retention, is early on, to catch students early on rather than later. Another component that we looked at was the lowest grade for the marking periods. This was a sticking point for our committee. And understand, it took a while from 2017 to as of yesterday to reach consensus. Why? Because we were really digging and thinking about our current practices. So currently, we could have a secondary student that would put great effort early part of the school year because our courses are annualized, so it's a yearly course. And towards the end of the year, put less effort and still manage to minimally pass the course. So now we're proposing that the lowest grade for the first 3 marking periods be 55, and the last marking period will be a true average of the student's work and effort. That means students actually have to continue to put great effort and energy and really work hard throughout the entire year. Additionally, we looked at uniformity. So in our old standard operating procedures, a teacher would have that discretion. So teachers from grades to grades, so courses to courses, were able to create their grading policy, if you will. Now, as we're looking now at a pre-K-8 model, we're looking for more consistent practices, uniformity, uniform percentages for all of our core content subjects throughout the district. So if a student is transferring from a class to class at the same grade level, the same content, or from school to school, now they're uniform practices. In terms of at our secondary levels, students that took a Regents course may or may not sit for that Regents exam that corresponds to that course. Now that became troubling because when we look at our APPR, which is our annual performance review for our teachers, and we look at student accountability, which is really reflected in our school status, we see that that actually was a tremendous negative impact. So we're proposing now that students who take a Regents course sit for that Regents exam. And absentees, by not sitting and opting not to sit for that Regents exam, there will be a consequence of a zero average as 20% of that 4th marking period grade, similar to that of a final. Now, when you think about this, you may say, why? Well, we actually, this was a very much a living document. So from the January 8th reading to actually, as of yesterday, we did discuss as a committee, and we did have a heated discourse around the ramifications. Are we really ensuring that we have enough supports for all of our students that they can learn and that we're raising the standard that's really in line with our deep expectations and our mindset around students? So we really discussed this, and we really felt like this was a line and we were able to reach consensus. So with our current grading policy at our pre-K 5 level, we know pre-K is really supporting our early childhood development. So progress reports are giving out marking periods 2 through 4. The first marking period is a great deal of testing and assessment of where students are in terms of their skill building and phonemic awareness. At grades K through 5, our current report cards are standards-based, and it's ranging from level 1 through 4. 1, where students are not demonstrating an understanding of concepts and skills, all the way to a 4 where they have exceeded that, and they have an in-depth understanding of concepts. Now, you may say, well, how does that translate at the secondary level? At the secondary level, our ranges are different. They're numerical. So our academic performance and our level of progress is really the determining factor in our course grades. So for our 4 core courses, we're looking at a number of types of assessments, and that's spelled out. Why? Because we want to ensure there's multiple data points, not just exams and quizzes, but projects and presentations. How impressive was Avid earlier around ensuring that students were able to be articulate and to share their thinking and really engage in higher order thinking skills and truly to be ready for leading our community and our nation. And that's really what we're looking to ensure that we have quality graduates. We also grappled around homework. There are things that at the school district we can control, but we cannot control the environment of the home. So homework is a lower percentage at 10%. And then class participation, understanding that that can range in various ways, whether it's a group project or individual learning or an exit ticket or an entry ticket. Now, we are under our school accountability measures, we know that 90% is our standard in terms of attendance. And so we want to ensure that students have an opportunity to really engage and participate, and understanding that poor attendance has an impact on that participation to the extent of completing homeworks and projects and being prepared for exams. We know that one size doesn't fit all, so it's a teacher's discretion in terms of the non-core classes. Certainly we know that a vocal teacher has a different grading than an English teacher, although they assess students. So we want to ensure that there's some uniformity and consistency. So really it's our expectation and the philosophy throughout that our students are able to pass our 4 core academic subjects. Now, this is no deviation from our current policy. Students are to minimally pass English, language arts, mathematics, social studies, and science. And promotion from one grade level to the next, a 65% or better, or at least a level 2 on English, language arts, and mathematics is really the minimum standard. We understand that when we think about retention, we take a number of factors in account. A student's age, their social, emotional, developmental health, teacher recommendations. But we really want to ensure that we have enough interventions and support that's aligned with our current practices in our RTI model that we have in all of our schools. Now, when we think about students being retained and what that would look like and what would be the ways in which a student could actually be promoted, we're looking and ensuring that there is a summer program for students so that they can receive the extra support needed. Additionally, additional instructional time, be it a strategic reading or mathematics. a district mandated intervention type of program, whether it's an RTI, before or after school, an AIS, or academic intervention service, period. So these are the ways in which we want to ensure that our students have the interventions and the supports. Now, this is no deviation. We're just actually spelling this out in such a way that it allows for and ensures that we have these different elements in place and the appropriate interventions for our students. Now, in terms of timeline, every 5 weeks, the progress report is, or report card is provided to the families. On that report card, it assesses where students are, and it notes any areas of concern. By that 10th week, we want to ensure that parents are notified if there's any difficulty. Now, this is aligned with our RTI process. So letters of concerns are sent out. The central office is notified, and we can ensure we have a team. Now, currently in our schools, there's an RTI team. There will be a committee and a team approach as well to ensure that we are having conversations and documenting the support for our children. So where are we right now in terms of the committee? Where are we in terms of our current procedures?
Cletisha,
Well,
I'm sorry to interrupt your flow, but can we just go back? I want to clarify one thing.
absolutely.
When you say by the 10th week of school, you know, parents, by February 1st, they'll get a letter of concern when a student is having difficulty. Can you, is that just, are you just referring directly to the RTI protocols that are already in place? When you say a student is having difficulty, what does that mean?
So that would mean that that teacher would have to inform that parent in writing via a meeting, a face-to-face meeting, a telephone call, and document that. And that's important because we want to ensure that our parents are truly partners in the process, and that if there's any difficulty, if there's any type of way we can prescribe different interventions, we can make adjustments in the instructional practice early on. That parent is a partner in that process.
Right.
And that's happening oftentimes in our schools during the RTI meeting. I've actually observed principals lead one where they engage in this practice.
I understand all that. I'm just trying to clarify for the, this does not address this particular policy that is proposed and the procedures that go with it doesn't really address what triggers an RTI. That's already dealt with separately. You have other procedures to talk about RTI. You're just trying to standardize when there is an RTI needed, what is the timeline, you know, in terms of the school year of when that's actually required to be triggered, right? Because my understanding is that currently, depending on the teacher, depending on the school building, some teachers may flag something, you know, very early in the school year. Some teachers may flag something very late in the school year, and we're trying to put something in place to say, no, if there's a problem, you need to make the family aware of it.
Absolutely, Trustee McOwen, and that's a great point. We want to actually align with our current practices, but when it's spelled out in terms of procedure, then that allows us to support those school leaders and teachers to ensure that's in place and to ultimately ensure that we have enough supports for our children. So we're not waiting into the latter half of the school year in order to have that documentation and to note that. Because early on, a teacher knows if there's some difficulty, so it's very important to bring the parents into the conversation as well as the other practitioners.
Yep. Thank you.
So, in terms of some of the next steps, it's around communicating, it's around really bringing all of our stakeholders together to share where we are in this process, to share the information. It is on our district website, and we want to ensure that we have a broad representation of our community. Next steps from sharing this with our PTAs, rolling this out with our school leaders that weren't on the committee, our student government, really broadening that sense of voice. Additionally, professional development for teachers around the electronic grade books would be critical. It's very powerful when a student and a parent is able to access almost immediately where students are with various assignments, and that teachers are able to electronically substantiate their grades. So those are the work around this committee for this last few years, and I just wanted to show that link. I went on the link just a few minutes ago, and I was hoping that we would have more community comment about the policies under review, but it's right here on our web page. If you scroll down under quick links, it is available. So at this time, if there are any additional questions or concerns from the floor, from the community, as well as our Board of Trustees. I see some of our members. We have Ms. McDowell, who's a parent that sat on the committee.
I had just a few follow-up questions.
Certainly.
Can you talk for a minute about the history of this committee? Two specific points. Can you talk about what your direction was from Dr. Hamilton at the beginning of this process, and how members of the committee were selected or volunteered, and how you went about getting a panel together of constituents?
Thank you. And excuse me for my failure to elaborate more around that. So actually, I have to be very transparent. This was brought to my attention from a community member, a parent, and that actually helped in having conversations about some of the deep issues and concerns around promotion, retention, and grading. Bringing that to my direct supervisor, Dr. Gorman, Deputy Superintendent, and directly to Dr. Hamilton, Superintendent of Schools, it was, well, let's look at our current practices, have some time to observe, to actually have conversations with administrators, with teachers, and do some fact-finding. And that was very much that fall term. And then really the convening of the committee, in working with me, it's authentic in that everyone has an equal voice. So in terms of the administrators, I said any administrator, if you're interested in this topic, if with any of my committee work, I don't tell anyone, they volunteer. So truly, it was administrators that wanted to engage. So from standards administrators to principals to assistant principals to department chairs, it was their interest and passion. In terms of reaching out to our teacher side, there were a few teachers that I was familiar with, and I did reach out, and I also reached out to our collective bargaining units, the Federation of Teachers, so they selected representatives on the committee.
How many different schools were represented on the committee?
Oh my. It was elementary, middle, and high. I apologize, I can give you that information. We had representatives from, I'm looking at you, Ms. McDowell, we had from Graham, from Hamilton, from Benjamin Turner Middle School, Rebecca Turton, Thornton High School.
So from all the schools.
Come up here, because they remember, these are actually representatives from our Federation of Teachers that sat on the committee. So just about every school, and I didn't choose any of those representatives at all. I did ask some of my district instructional team members because I wanted their perspective and their expertise, in particular that for our English language learners, our multilingual learners, and I also had some of our special education specialists take part and to ensure that we had language around student equity and rights. So the notion that, and the importance and alignment of the law to ensure that students that have an individual education plan or IEP, that they, depending on those goals and that IEP regulations around modified promotional standards or not, and also ensuring that our multilingual or our English language learners, depending on the number of years in the country and English language acquisition, they had an opportunity to engage in additional instructional services and support, so that we weren't being punitive at all to our different subgroups.
Right, I see that. Another member or constituency I saw you had listed was graduates. What, you mean recent high school graduates? Who was on the committee? What do you
There
mean?
was a graduate. I would say, and to be transparent, that was one of the hurdles in getting the larger community and casting a larger net. But with Facebook and a number of those ways in which reaching out to the community, that was actually a graduate that came with a parent that was interested in having conversations and being very candid around their concerns around the lack of consistent practices. And one of the things that I pride myself with is people being able to tell me anything and not mince their words, and I try not to take anything at all personal. And so people were very candid, be it administrator, teacher, even community leaders and parents of the things that they struggled with some of the experiences in some of our schools and with grading and with promotion and retention. So I had a parent from actually Pennington that was very vocal and helped with some of the language. And she spent some time in really talking about that and pushing back. It's been very heated, almost a year and a half.
Great.
Any other questions or concerns?
No specific questions. I mean, you have the floor, Dr. Hamilton, but I would love to hear from a couple of other people, if they're in the room anyway, who were on the committee, just generally their thoughts on the process and the outcome. I don't know who was on, so I don't have any.
Dr. Walden, anybody in particular you'd like to call up and share their experiences?
Yes, our parent and Miss McDowell.
Just while she's coming up, FYI, we did post, I had Rick post a document showing the differences. There's not many, but the few differences between the January 8th version and tonight's version, just so everybody can see in red and black, I think, the differences, sorry.
Good evening, hi. I'm Ms. McDowell. I'm one of the parent members who had the opportunity to come and spend a few days here in the summertime because that's when the parent committee met. I'm not sure. We only had a few joint meetings with the full staff, with a lot of the administrators and teachers, and it was kind of interesting to have, and I was grateful to be a part because we did have a lot of concerns of the way the practices have always been in the district. As many of you know, I have 3 children. 2 have already graduated from this school district. 1 who is currently here in the 9th grade over at Thornton in the Performing Arts as a dance major. And just from kindergarten all the way through, there was quite a bit differences between moving from class to class. So one teacher had a standard, there was a different standard in the next class. And just when you have 3 children at one time in the school system and try to kind of keep track of what is taking place, it was not consistent across the board. So we had a lot of questions and concerns. So grading is definitely something that I'm very concerned about, as well as the attendance piece, and just how can we just level the playing field for all, especially for those who will have a lot of different challenges, whether it's the English language learners, as well as those with special needs, with those with disabilities. How are we making it consistent so that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed in this, in our school district? Like I said, trust me, although I have pushed and promoted my 2 students who are out and doing exceptionally well, there were challenges that I had to go back and forth. So I'm not saying everything was always perfect, but we made it the best that we can. And also, even with this policy, right now, no, it's not perfect, but we did have and trust me, so those meetings, and everyone is very vocal. As many of you know, when I'm in a meeting, I can be very vocal, and sometimes we go back a few times, but everyone's voice is heard, just so we can kind of share what needs to take place, and even forward, what else is now going to come back, so that we can go back again before we present this out to the community, because we want is going to be, for the most part, in the best interest of everyone that we service in the community. So it's been a great experience, and I'm going to continue to be a part of this community. I'm born and raised in this community, so I want nothing but the best for what's coming up out of Mount Vernon.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. And this is a teacher, also representative from the Federation of Teachers.
Don't need that.
No, for the
Okay.
recording.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a teacher, so I don't really need a microphone. I have a teacher
Voice, yes.
I'm able to project my voice loud enough for everyone to hear. I joined the committee this year, so I wasn't privy to the previous meetings. I only started to come this year as part of my responsibilities of being part of the union and a teacher as well. This year, I am a teacher at the Performing Arts, Thornton, the Performing Arts School. So I was very interested in kind of assisting in this policy that, and as Ms. McDonald said, it's not perfect, but we're on the right track. We're working toward unifying all of the schools and getting a policy in place that we can all agree upon. It still could use a little more tweaking, but we're working in that direction, and I think we've done a good job toward that end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
So,
comments?
Dr. Walden, in summarizing where we are in the process, what I think would make sense moving forward is to post this on our site, and let's kind of broaden our net so that folks have an opportunity for input, and we can determine what that timetable will be, and then have it put in policy format for reading and ultimately adoption. Is that acceptable, Mr. McOwen?
That's acceptable to me. Just to clarify, the board policy part of this is the first page, and then the rest of it are with direction, specifically about there is to be procedures, they are to be equitable across the district, and highlighting certain things that are very important to the board. The specifics about the pass-fail rate, whether the deadline is February 1st or some other time, all these very, very specific things, these are the procedures, and the goal is obviously to have something that is uniform and both equitable on paper, but also equitable in practice, which is obviously harder to achieve. I mean, we're already past February 1st, so and there's different grading periods and stuff. So in terms of the implementation, whether this goes into effect at the next grading period or, I leave it to the judgment of the administration on what the smoothest way is to implement this that will keep it on track, but also not be unfair to any students or teachers who have already, planned their curriculum and their syllabi. We need to make sure it's in place as soon as possible so that everyone has plenty of time to plan for next year across the whole district.
Okay, great. Great, good job. Thank you, Dr. Walden. Thank you. And last, under the superintendent's report, is our redistricting plan. As you know, we have been talking since the 2020 Vision for Academic Excellence that we would inevitably be faced with a redistricting. Our task was to try to minimize the impact of the redistricting and to try to reduce the number of temporary classroom structures that would be in our district while we were making this transition. So kudos to the committee who have worked on this. Tonight our facilitators will be Dr. Manning Campbell and Mr. Joe McGrath, and they will share with you the work that we are presenting this evening and ultimately what our next steps will be as we roll out our redistricting plan and the corresponding timetable.
Oops. I had a teacher and principal voice, but clearly that's gone. So I need the mic, Ms. Perez. Good evening and thank you. So, thanks. We're very excited to speak to you about the initiative to redraw our school zone boundaries to support our 2020 vision, our academic vision. So our goals of doing this work is to reevaluate and plan for higher efficiency for building capacity usage. What does that mean? We have buildings that are over capacity and we don't have optimal learning environments. And so the thought behind this is truly an academic vision. We want to ensure that fiscal efficiencies by minimizing use of temporary modular classrooms in order to avail bond funds for implementation of the 2020 academic vision. We want to make sure that we make space in our classrooms to support our K-8 vision, our pre-K-8 vision in most buildings. We also want to minimize the impact on affected families. We don't want to keep moving families and students each time we realize that we're outgrowing a building. So careful attempts were made to keep this with minimal impact as possible. This is our current grade configuration as part of the 2020 vision.
So as you can see by all the green arrows, these are all the changes that have happened through the schools as part of this 2020 vision. Changes from 2017-18 into 18-19 current year, and changes proposed for next year. Now, the buildings that are starred were a special concern for us because of space issues. So we wanted to take a very specific look at those buildings and determine whether or not a modular classroom was a solution or if there was a better solution.
Our strategic planning. So this process really started in 2017 with our residency verification to ensure that we have the right students in the appropriate buildings. Class sizes were also based on SED square footage requirements and developmental needs. We do know that we have some buildings that are functioning beyond capacity. This is attempting to rectify that and to ensure that, again, we have optimal learning environments to support our academic vision. Projections were made from enrollment and trends. We looked at years of progression. Bilingual and self-contained educational students were addressed. We wanted to make sure we had the appropriate buildings. We did not move them if we did not have to. Special permission students were also not moved as a result of the process, and there were deliberate attempts to redraw the lines logically. Now, what does that mean? We did not cut streets in half. We wanted to make sure that students weren't walking by 2 schools to get to the 3rd school, because we understand that we're 4 square miles. We wanted to make sure that if you can see the building, that was your building. Careful attempts were made to avoid the need to redraw lines, again, once all construction is completed. Okay. Determining our maximum class size. There is a consideration in our district for early grades. We intentionally kept those classrooms smaller. We know that it's important for foundational grades for us to have smaller class sizes.
So also worth noting is the buildings, the classroom square footage is going to be a strong determinant of how many kids you can put into that density regulation. So for example, we might say, hey, this is a 4th grade classroom.
Can you use the mic, please?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. We can put 25 students in that classroom, but due to square footage, we may not be able to. So on the right-hand side, you see the actual square footage. Now, those are not the actual limitations. Those are the numbers we used. And very specifically, we didn't want to create a situation where we started the year at capacity, because one student walks in and the whole thing falls apart. So what we did is we reduced our numbers. We would try to be conservative in our estimates. This way, when the plan moves forward and enrollment happens, that we're okay, that we can absorb a certain amount of registration, normal registration procedures. What's also worth noting is even though the physical size of the classrooms might be larger, for those younger children, we're still keeping those classes smaller deliberately for developmental needs.
And just to reiterate that fact for the public, our average class sizes are self-imposed limitations. We're well below the state maximum.
Well below.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our current map. This is what the district looks like today. So this is just to give you guys a sense of reference. You'll notice that Pennington up north borders Trapphagen as well. And also note where the schools are within the zone. So when we talked about rezoning some of the schools, we obviously didn't want to go below where the schools are. So Lincoln is a building that we're going to talk about tonight, and you'll see that very logically you can't go below Lincoln to put those students into Pennington. So these are some of the concerns that we had in terms of looking at where the buildings are, what the logical streets were, and where to put them. So we're just going to zoom in a little bit, and you can get kind of a better look at. That's better, right? More? Okay. So here's a little bit more. I'm with you. So here's a closer look. Let me take a step back for a second. So here's a closer look at those 2 buildings. So Columbus and Lincoln specifically have space issues. So to rezone those two buildings into Pennington becomes a question. Where do you make those lines? And again, you want to do something that's logical. You don't want to do something where I can see the school, I used to go there, now I can't. That's an illogical move. So if we do a close-up in terms of these streets, the zones that we came up with based on, and there's a lot of math involved in here, looking at the class size and how many kids and what's the effect of moving the kids that live there and so the pink is Columbus zone, the brown is the Lincoln zone, and the Pennington is the green zone. So the question is where do you move the lines from Columbus into Pennington, and where do you move the lines from Lincoln into Pennington? And again, you want to follow logic. You want to know where the schools are, so it's very important. And it's really just slightly cut off, but Lincoln is down at the very, very bottom there. So you don't obviously want to draw a line where I used to go to Lincoln, I can see Lincoln, now I can't go there anymore. So we came up with some very logical lines for moving the zones of the students that live there into the Pennington zone. Okay, worth noting too is where the former Nelson Mandela High School.
Use the mic.
Sorry. Where the former school teacher. Where the former Nelson Mandela High School is, which will, of course, once it becomes online, is going to change the equation a little bit. So this is what it would look like with the redrawing of the lines. And you'll see how Pennington now has come south a little bit, and you see the lines for Lincoln, and you see the lines for Columbus, as they would be in this proposal. So what does that look like for Columbus? 40 to 45 students would be moved to Pennington. Now you have some more space in that school, which would help honor our commitments towards pre-K neighborhood schools. It doesn't fully solve the problem yet. And again, we have that other school that's going to come online, which is we're going to need. So there's 3 anticipated 8th grade sections that would attend the STEAM Academy in this proposal in the 1920 school year. Yeah.
Sorry. Also, please note that we're not, we're removing the need for modular classrooms at Columbus, which takes up green space, parking space, and it's just really, in most cases, not the best plan of action in terms of having modular classrooms at a school.
So wherever possible to remove the need for a modular classroom, this proposal is
We redrew lines for Lincoln. This improves the general overcrowding. By drawing that line at Urban Street, we reduced our enrollment to 605 students. We removed 124 students projected to attend Lincoln next year. Right. So what it does is it reduces the reliance on space. Lincoln is overcrowded. No surprise there. There are classrooms in the library, hallway space, so this gives Lincoln an opportunity to operate without the overcrowding. Redrawing the lines for Pennington. With Columbus and Lincoln, Pennington receives 166 additional students. Remember, with the construction, we built 12 additional classrooms, and this is how we're going to populate the building. So, recommendation that we have for next year, at Holmes and Parker, there will be a room reconfiguration to accommodate the full implementation of the 2020 vision. There will be 2 modular classrooms which will be utilized at Traphagen in 2019 and 2020. Please also note that when the new building comes on, we'll be able to move some students around so that Traphagen will absorb the entire pre-K-8 model. The zones for Pennington and Lincoln and Columbus will be redistributed effective July 2019. Columbus, 60 students will attend the STEAM Academy. Grimes, 32 8th grade students will attend BTMS. And Hamilton 7th grade students will continue to attend BTMS until we can make space with the new building coming on.
So this is now, on the left you see the existing, and on the right you see...
Use the mic, please.
Oh, excuse me. We're going to get a sticker. On the left you see the existing, and on the right you see the proposed. So when you see it up close, it looks very dramatic, but when you see as a district, you see that these are very conservative cuts and redrawing of the line. So we wanted to, again, be very conservative in what needs to be done to accommodate the model, the 2020 vision, and also make sure that we solve some of our space issues. And of course, all of this is meaningless without a timetable and a plan for action, so we have that as well. Phase 1 is the completed phase where we went through and we actually looked at all of this data and did a ton of research. Phase 2 is where we are today, presenting to the board, and then we would go to SED for approval, ask them, does this meet their new compliance with ESSA, et cetera, and make sure that they support this plan. Step 3 would then be to develop a communication plan for impacted parents and students. And then 4, of course, we make sure that everybody, including teachers, are notified of the change. And finally, step 5, to redistribute notifications to make sure people hear once again about what the change would entail. Are there any questions?
Is there a rollout plan into the community, the schools? Sorry, is there a rollout plan to the community, the schools? How are we going to send this to the community and inform them?
Go back one. Okay, so the rollout plan is actually right here. So in terms of developing communication plans to talk to the community, that's involved in step 3. So assuming that we follow our timetable, in March and April, we begin that communication with the public.
Yeah,
Going to different schools.
Right,
probably
and
to
I
talk.
mean, to be more specific about the school, how you're going to do it with the parents and the teachers and the students?
We'll have information sessions at the buildings. We'll also send communication out to the parents. We'll do town hall meetings to make sure that, the people are aware in each building. So we'll definitely work with the school staff, the school administrator, the PTA to ensure that we get the message out. And this is why we want to do this early.
So we have, talk into the mic, please.
We have 124 students from Lincoln and 166 to Pennington, but have we identified the grades?
Yes.
Okay, we already did that.
We've identified the grades, we've done the configuration, we've done the class sizes, we've done enrollment studies. We know exactly which students are moving, the grades. We've ensured that we're not beyond capacity. The capacity slides that we talked about in terms of classrooms, we are where we need to be.
Now, do these students have siblings as well? Are these going with their?
So it's based on where you live, sorry. I'll remember now, I promise.
Okay.
It's based on where you live. So if one sibling is in that school and they're moving, the other sibling would follow. Because it's based on where they live.
So what grades is it, though?
So this again.
So it's just by geography, not by grade? Is that?
Well, it's if you live there and you're attending an elementary school,
right? And
you would move.
Okay.
Correct.
Will this require any busing for the Grimes kids to be
So-
on Benjamin Turner?
So we've done the mileage. So from Grimes to Ben Turner would be 1.3 miles, and from Grimes to Hamilton or Davis would be 1.1 miles. So it's a 1 mile radius, depending on where you live, approximate, from Grimes to Benjamin Turner.
Which is, which is, by the way, what the students always did prior to this. In the 6th grade, you always went to a middle school. So it's the same as what they've always historically done. Right? At the end of 6th grade, they would go, or at the end of 7th grade, they
Either
would go.
Benjamin Turner or to Davis.
How much of an impact are the new housing projects that the mayor is allowing in the city? How much of an impact is it going to make? Do you have any contingency plans?
So the plan is when that becomes available, we'll be able to populate the new building. So we have played with some numbers and some scenarios, and we'll be able to strategically populate the new building based on where the construction will occur. And so one of the buildings, I believe, is up near Pennington, and the other buildings are by Hamilton and/or Columbus. And so with the rezone, those students will definitely go to the new building once that comes online.
So that's second. I want to get in trouble. That's when the former Nelson Mandela High School comes online. That's when we would take into consideration all that new, because the rezoning would be around that area. Okay. So that's going to be a much more intensive rezone than this. This is just phase 1.
So we're going to rezone again once the new building gets online.
We're going to rezone the district once again, correct. The goal of this is to, once we've redrawn this line, We're done. We're not going to, our plan is not to go back and say to the Columbus students, for example,
Now
we
you
moved you
don't-
into the Pennington area, now we're going to move you back.
Back, okay.
Right, that was my main question for
Right.
when the former Mandela building comes back. Where do we anticipate it will pull students from?
Yep.
Which other schools?
So the students, we may or may not move, we may not move from Columbus. There's an area there that's really populated with students, the southernmost tip. We would perhaps select students from there, maybe a bit of Hamilton, the tip, maybe a bit of Grimes, and maybe a little bit of Lincoln. Possibly. We have to look at the capacity of the building and see what we can.
And it also depends, like Trustee
The enrollment.
Rose just said, it depends on the development between now and when that opens too.
Right,
So-
in our enrollment.
And the other thing that's important to point out, first of all, you guys did a great job. Very, very
we thank you.
Very well done. When we started this conversation, we were looking at the need for 6 modulars. And we're now down to only 2
Great.
with this plan. So there's a huge savings associated with that. In addition to some efficiency costs that we also get to save as a result of this modified plan.
I was a little confused by one thing you said. You said we're gonna have 2, is it modulars at Traphagen?
Yes.
But then you said you anticipated that they would go, the need for that would go away. Why would the need go away? If,
Because we would rezone and perhaps,
like,
based
get
on
from
the,
Traphagen and go into the old Mandela building?
no, based on the configuration of some of the classes in Traphagen, we could remove some specialized classes, some classes that are in Traphagen and/or other buildings to relieve Traphagen, and then the entire building would be the K-8 model that it is.
I'm trying to understand, are you saying that there are certain classes being taught in Traphagen that are that are for special ed kids or something, that could be moved to another building, that
Yes.
type of service?
Yes.
I see, okay.
And so we didn't want to disrupt those children.
Yeah, you do it once, not twice. yeah.
So I have to tell you, we looked very closely at rezoning Traphagen, what that would look like. And so we actually have software that maps out where every student lives, obviously for a public presentation that's not appropriate to show, but what we saw was the density of Traphagen is right around Traphagen.
Right.
So to achieve any sort of measurable results, you'd have to do this kind of very strange, non-logical thing. So this is the more logical approach.
Right.
Can you explain the Columbus 8th grade 60 students will attend the STEAM Academy in 2019-20?
So Columbus is also one of our schools that's severely overcrowded. And so by removing that approximate 60 students now would give us space in the future to accommodate the pre-K-8 model that we have. So that would alleviate in conjunction with the rezone, right? So a lot of this is based on the new building coming online as well, because that will alleviate some space.
So those 8th graders will spend the 8th grade at the STEAM Academy?
Correct.
No, as, okay, not
As
as
eighth
high
grade,
school?
no, as 8th grade students.
As 8th grade student. So they will apply to the academy, you know.
Exactly.
Similarly to all other students.
Right.
Or attend Thornton or the high school, whatever they want.
Correct.
Same as
They
any-
still have that option.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you get to the timetable?
Yeah, we
We
did
did.
the timetable, yeah.
Very good.
And that was very helpful, thanks.
Thank you. Go back to our thank you.
Thank you. Very
You're
well
welcome.
done. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Next is the president's report. First of all, I would like to welcome all and thank you for coming out this evening. One thing I want to talk about is the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers are having their food drive. The food is due, all canned goods are due February 8th at the high school. Am I correct, Jeannie? Yes. So if you would like to donate, if you don't have children and you want to donate to the food drive, all canned goods, please. Math night for Grimes School is February 7th, which is this Thursday. Parent Involvement Day is February 11th. Please come out and support your students and your friends' students, and just come out and see what's going on in our schools this year. February 11th is all day long. by our next meeting, we will have a schedule for the bus tours for the community, so I'll have that. I would like to thank Dr. Walden and her committee for a job well done on that retention and grading policy, because teachers are looking for that retention and grading policy as soon as possible. So I want to commend you for you and your committee, and that ends the president's report. Oh, committee reports. I lost my computer. I should know this by heart. Okay. Let's see. Who wants to start on the committee report? Dr. Ning. I'm going to start with Dr. Ning.
All right, so it will be
Education.
short. The Education Committee met on Friday, February 1st at 8 a.m. And we had 2 items on the agenda. One was on formative assessment and data tracker presented by Satish and Dr. Gail White-Wallace. And the other was around about the pool update on the integration of the pool into the education of children of Mount Vernon High Schools. So they presented the data on how teachers use data to track students' progress. There is a system called, what is it called? Through the iReady system, where students, teachers use the iReady system to track, students' progress regularly. And at the end of every month, they provide, they are provided with a snapshot on how their students, the level of their students. For instance, from January, I believe it says ELA January 2019 and ELA NIS 2019, all students. There were 179 students tested, and there was an 85%, 47% of the students performed at level 1, and at the end, on the next tracking, there were 31% of the students who performed at level 1, meaning there was a difference of 16% who went from level 1 to level 2 or level 3. So, they stated that this tracking system is available to all teachers in, I believe, grade 3 through 8. We asked them to provide this data to teachers rather than just stating that it's available for them to use. But every month, I think a report should be presented to the teachers. It's in the form of 1 page or 2 pages, and it has a color system that shows the level, where the students are. Red meant level 1, yellow was level 2, I believe 3 is level 3, and blue was level 4. No, green is level 3, and blue was level 4. So if they could provide this to the teachers rather than assume that the teachers will go through it, I think it would be, much better received. The other thing was they described the type of intervention that they use in the classroom. They have different level of intervention. They have groups that they call intervention group, another group that call on-level group, and an advanced group. So based on the performance of the students, the intervention, whatever type of intervention, is adapted to each group. They also mentioned that there will be a STEM camp, I believe, in the summer, this coming summer. And we raised the issues about, we've done well, really, compared from where we were in 2013 to now, grades, performance have increased dramatically. However, there is still a large number of students who need to progress. So where we are this year, wonderful, commend, the whole administration, teachers, parents, students. But at the same time, we need to be aware that we need to move up. Next year, we expect more. So how do we achieve, that? How do we go more? How do we go for more? So it's a continuous work, and I believe presentation like the iReady, makes us believe that next year we will, we are on the right track, to do that, to really get to there. The second item was about the pool update, and Mr. Gregory spoke about, hiring 2 teachers who are there. I don't know if it is full-time, though, but there are at least 2 people who are available to teach. Is it full-time?
Full-time,
They're
yes.
full-time, yes. I didn't write it down. So they're full-time, and they're looking into ways of implementing physical swimming into the physical education program. So they have looked at different models, and it is a work in progress. They presented a budget about what's needed to really implement a swimming program. For instance, right now they provide swim caps to students. Perhaps in the future they will require students to buy their own swim caps, or ways of generating funds from the after-school programs or afternoon programs, evening, weekends, from the community. So that, because the budget itself is about $100,000, I believe, 108,000 or something. So there should be ways to recoup, to get some of those funds from implementing some of the programs. Of course, we raised the issues of the how expensive it was, the plan that was originally put in place, and I think it has been addressed, right, Dr. Hamilton?
Yes, that is correct.
To an acceptable level. And they're looking at getting maybe perhaps annual membership, semi-annual membership, of ways, at least ways of, dealing with the issues. And during the meeting, you had your 5-minute reading literacy, because it was Literacy Day.
Yes.
And I think it is something that can be implemented regularly.
Yes.
Not just on Literacy Day. Okay. So, anyway, moving towards a full swimming program, will require funds. And, what we really need to do is hire a director of athletics. This is a position that was eliminated back in 2008. With the plan that we have for Mount Vernon, in terms of, others, we spoke about this last time, I do think that we really need to make sure that we have a plan in place. It could be a year or 2 years away from getting that person in, and putting it into the budget. However, they can be planned on, through grants, where you could do that through after-school programs and start somebody who could come and be hired full-time through the grant. And part of it would be to look and establish, put together a plan of operation. What does every middle school need? What do the high schools need in terms of implementing good programs, for athletics? And in that sense, we think that fixing the field at the STEAM, school, Davis, would be great as a hub for middle school, and elementary athletics, right? So the field is not that big. However, it can represent a hub for those. They don't have to always go all the way to the high school, because we have a concentration of K through 8 schools around here, that could attend or, have physical activities, in their field. And it would be great for the community as well. So I would, ask or suggest that the budget for the renovation of Davis Academy, be, that portion, be added again. I think it was part of the plan before, but then it was removed. We could probably find $1 million or something. I mean, somewhere, to do it. We're talking about a STEAM school. We're talking about a STEM school. Students need to really have good feel, need to feel, much, more about the school itself. And I believe physical education is, great at, motivating students. And they need top program in athletics as well. You know, it's not that just because they would be considered as academicians or scholars that they not, you know, open to some of those physical activities. So that was basically our report for today. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Trustee Owen.
We've talked at length about one of the policies, which this meeting counts as the second reading of that. But the other, my computer literally just died. But the other, what's the other policy on for second reading tonight? It's
Student assignment to schools.
right, the assignment of classrooms. We'll talk about that.
At a later time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
at unfinished business.
Thank you. Trustee Williams?
No committee report. Thank you.
Trustee Saunders? God, how am I forgetting these people's names?
So let me make sure my mic is on. So the Health and Safety Committee met yesterday. We had we canceled the meeting from January, so we had our meeting yesterday. So we went over some action things which Mike Policio and Ken Valiello took care of. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Now we can.
Thank you. So there was a testing for air quality testing at Thornton, which Dr. Lynch came back with. The results came in with regular requirements. That was a checkpoint. There was an issue at Williams School regarding an elevator, and Mike Felicio is still looking into. We either are going to replace it, and we're waiting for budget money for that because it's too old to fix. That's pretty much it. There were some other air quality issues at the STEAM Academy which were addressed. So our next meeting will be Monday, the Monday before the board meeting in March. I think it's the March 4th.
Yes.
Okay. My next committee report is special education. We met on January 23rd. I'm sorry. Our next meeting is February 13th. Our meeting January 23rd regarding the transition planning, and we had someone, Ms. Teminello from OPWDD, who gave an excellent report on what to do when the children are about 7 or 8 and the services that they require. We also had a presentation from Michelle King, a special education student at Malvern High School, who spoke about how she did life skills resume, and she implemented some work-based learning for those children at the high school. I spoke to Gary Gregory, and we are going to start the health and wellness meeting again next month in March. Do I have any other committee reports? Oh, I did the food pantry on Saturday. We had over 200 people, so that went very well. And the OSHA resume training that Melissa and I did a couple of months ago. Was it last
February
month?
9th.
Yeah.
I mean, January 9th.
Yeah.
January 9th. I spoke to Councilman Wallace, who said that he'd be ready to do the OSHA training sometime. We're looking at March, not a definite date, but we're looking at March. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And my last report, I'm sure, is Trustee Patterson.
I have no report. We have our next meeting the 13th at 9 a.m. and I know the budget's at the 13th at 8 a.m.
Yes, both of them, ordered in, budget the same day. Okay, that ends all the committee reports. Any questions? Acceptance of minutes?
From the special meeting of January 15th, motion, please.
Motion.
Trustee McOwen.
Second.
Trustee Saunders, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will now enter into executive session.
I need a motion to enter an executive session to discuss the employment history of a person or persons, a student matter, a special education matter,
Legal
And
advice.
negotiations.
and to receive update on negotiations with the Mount Vernon Administrators Group.
Motion?
Second.
Trustee Saunders, Trustee Jaros, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
We should be out in about 30 minutes.
Can we please have a motion to reconvene to public session?
Motion.
Trustee Saunders,
Second.
second trustee Jaros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
He's talking to,
Motion carries. Mr. McOwen was not present for the vote.
Opportunity for trustees to take things off the.
remove anything?
Yeah, to remove.
Yes, sorry, yes.
To remove the items from the consent agenda.
Please indulge me as I'm without my computer and I have to rely on something made out of wood. It's got writing on it. It's very strange and thin. Paper. That's what it's called. 11.8. Can I just? I think I want to remove that.
11 point, change order number 7 for Graham Elementary School.
We did all the change orders.
Yeah, I know. 11.8.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Thank
Talt
you.
Electric.
Where's all the?
I have.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, 11.8 and apologies. 8.4.
8.4.
Yeah.
An agreement with St. Rose College reach for the principal preparation program.
Superintendent, is that the one we talked about earlier? That is the one, yes, that one.
Okay.
That's all.
Anything else?
Anyone else?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion.
Trustee McOwen.
Second?
Trustee Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the authorization to enter into an agreement with St. Rose College, Reach Educational Solutions, and Just Inspire LLC to implement the Model P20 partnership for principal preparation?
Motion to discuss.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Saunders.
Thank you. Excuse me. Dr. Hamilton, wait, can you just clarify, this is an opportunity that you select people to go to this program? Just, can you talk a minute about how this works exactly?
So the state is anticipating a crisis with identifying qualified teachers who would be able to assume the role of principal in the near future. So there's a grant that has been put out for school districts to apply for, which would support teachers who are, and there's 10 from our district, correct, BC? Dr. BC? 10 teachers from our district who will be the aspiring principals, and they will be a part of this consortium. And other districts have gotten it as well, but we got enough funding to support 10 teachers from our district through a state grant.
So this is a one-time training, or is this over the course of a whole year, or what? Or 2 years?
2-year certification
Okay.
process.
And the 10 people were people you hand-selected, or it was applied for, or how does it work?
They applied for it
I see.
and went through a committee process.
Got it.
Based on the fact that they have to be highly effective, more effective teachers.
Okay. Well, that's great. I'm glad we're looking, again, something I think our superintendent is very good at is looking forward. We try to do it too. And I'm glad that we have teachers looking forward in their own careers, and hopefully they can use those skills here in the future. That's great.
Yes, we do have a contract. They have to stay with us for 4 years after they get their certification.
Even better. Even better.
What if they have opportunities to be hired in some other district?
For you.
They have to pay the money back? Yes. But what if there are no opening here in Mount Vernon in terms of administrative position? I mean, no opening here. So you train them, and they don't have the capacity, or the ability to perform as administrators, as principal or as here, because there are no spots open, or maybe, right?
Well, they have to wait until that spot is open, or give us the money back and go someplace else.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that they will be selected for any vacancy. It is an opportunity for them to be credentialed.
Right.
So that they are viable candidates, but there is no promise of hiring.
I would have assumed that since this is funded by the state, they may have the right, or some way to go and take on other jobs in other places. It is still serving, especially maybe if they were serving outside of New York State, yes, but if they are serving in New York State, maybe they could. The idea is to just for them to become principal administrators in public school somewhere in the state. Not just Mount Vernon. Otherwise, we don't have that capacity. How many administrators do we have? See what
It's
for Mount Vernon. It's for Mount. An agreement is an agreement. You have it, but I'm just.
This is a good thing. What are you talking about, Dr.
This is something that I would raise.
Yes, they signed the letter already.
It's
done. It's done.
This is great. This is great.
That's for 4 years.
Okay.
Yes.
This is great.
Regardless, they.
Okay.
Building the future. It's
It's
great.
great.
Serene, I'm going to get
It's
some
a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity, and I think, and I commend Dr. BC for really opening, and Dr. Hamilton, of course, for his leadership, these type of opportunities to our teachers and to our community. However, usually when you get, these grants from the federal government, you have a contract to sign, not with a particular district, but there is a commitment for like a year of funding for every, you serve 2 years, for every 1 year of funding, something like that. But what they do, they say in a high need district or high need school. So regardless of wherever it is in the United States. So here I get training, but I can only serve in Mount Vernon. I agree, I'm defending the cause
For
of Mount
4
Vernon.
years.
However,
For 4 years. And then
4 years.
after that, they can go anywhere.
I get in there.
Some of them might not be ready for a principal job for 5 years anyway. I mean,
That's right.
Yeah.
it's a good training opportunity. It's great. That's great. I have no further questions.
I think a lot of corporations do that as well.
Yeah.
You can go to school and you have to stay with them for a certain amount of time after you get your degree.
But to serve in those positions, that's what I'm saying.
They put the money.
Anyway, I'm just raising it.
Just take the gifts. Just take it.
I know it's good. It's good for us. I have no doubt that it's good for us.
4 years goes by.
Yeah, it'll go fast.
But that's it.
Let's vote, please.
Please. Oh, that's
Have
right.
enough? You want to do one at a time?
Oh, we got to vote on this one.
vote.
Let's
Yes.
vote.
I vote for
Yes, I'm in favor. Yes.
All those in
let's vote.
favor?
Aye.
Yeah, thank you.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. We have a motion to approve Untitled Electric change order number 1 for the Education Center abatement and reconstruction.
Motion.
Trustee McOwen,
Second.
Trustee White. Discussion.
Thank you. My
Discussion.
Thank
What
you.
number was that?
11.8.
11.8.
11.8. My question, which can be directed as Dr. Allen sees fit, is I looked at this agenda item and it looks like an expense that arose in 2017 that was billed to us in 2018, and I'm wondering why it did take so long for this to come to before the board for approval.
Mr. Policio, you want to add to that, Madam President?
No, I was going to say, I was looking for Mike sitting up there.
Just got the bill in January.
This change order.
I don't think your mic is on. Is it on? I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So this,
No.
It's on.
This change order was for work that was done when we did the renovation here. To the best of my knowledge, after speaking to Kevin today, this is paid. This is just paperwork to close out the project. So it's coming for ratification now to the board. I don't know why it took so long to get here, but the vendor has been paid, and the work has been done a year and a half ago. So it has nothing to, there's no funds coming out of this budget for this.
I understand that. The question is why are bills getting paid that we didn't approve? Is that what happened? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, trustee. This was done a year and a half ago. This came to my desk 2 days ago.
Right.
For review.
No, I realize it came to your desk just now, but this is the problem when you get old bills. It's so long ago nobody even can track of what it's for, or did we dispute it? Did we not dispute it? Who authorized the payment? We don't have any info other than it's a really old bill. And I understand it's a paperwork thing, but it sounds to me.
I think it just closed out paperwork. I can't say with certainty. Kevin is, okay. So I'm going to have to get back to you on the specifics here.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, should we
You
hold
wanna
it to the
pull it?
next meeting? Yeah.
You want to pull this, trustee
It's
McCollum?
already paid, then why don't we just pull it?
I would not vote for this. I mean, I've objected to this before.
Let's just pull it until.
I would
Pull it.
recommend it be pulled.
Mr. Kristoff, does somebody need to withdraw their motion and second to pull it, or?
Or do we all just vote no, or what did we do? I don't know what
You
do
vote
we do?
no, you can't vote no.
Oh,
I think he needs to rescind.
if we vote no, then it.
Right,
It
Correct.
says
but they
in
Correct.
they don't want to vote on
The
it tonight.
action that we already discussed this in executive session.
It's already been pulled from consent. He has to.
No, if we vote no,
They
then.
don't want to.
No,
They want to pull. They
can't
want
vote.
to
You
take.
can't vote on it because then you can't get it can't get reintroduced. There needs to be a motion introduced to reverse the motion.
Why can't we just vote no and then bring it up at a future meeting? We can vote no. Just because you disapprove something.
Can you bring it back
Just
after you
because
vote
you
no?
disapprove it doesn't mean you can't try again.
Okay. Call for vote then.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstain? Motion does not carry. All right. Unfinished business, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Looking at the wrong thing. We're on unfinished business.
Right, so the first item on unfinished business is the, the second reading of the promotion, grading, and retention policy. We had a thorough review of that during our presentation. Thank you, Claytisha, that was great. Based on recommendations from the administration, I suggest that we do not put this up for a vote tonight, and we wait until even further public comment. It's been up for a while, but it's now been put up on the website again, I understand. And also to give the administration time to figure out the best means of implementing it and the timing. So that's where that stands. On the other policy, there have been no changes, no comments that I know of received. Sorry, I'm now on to the second reading of the student assignment to schools and classes policy, which had a first reading on January 8th. There have been no changes since January 8th, and this is the policy that replaces and adds some wording to a similar policy that existed before, specifically giving the district the flexibility, or confirming the district has the flexibility to make student assignments on a variety of factors, including achievement, which goes to the STEAM Academy, and things other than geography. So this is allowing us the flexibility to implement the 2020 vision very clearly. It was not very clear before whether this really fit within the policy, so now we've been very clear that there are a number of factors that can go into the district's placement of students, not just geography or age or any other thing, but lots of other things as well. So I would propose that we put this up for adoption.
And a motion?
I move to adopt.
Trustee
Second.
Meekum. Trustee Jaros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
New business? There's no new business? That we adjourn the meeting. I was taking my time, my time. We didn't want to rush out of here.
When's our next meeting with the winter break and stuff? When is our next meeting?
February 26th.
The 26th is our next meeting, okay. So
Motion
3
to
weeks instead of 2
adjourn.
weeks.
Adjourn.
Trustee White, second.
Second.
Trustee Williams, all those in favor?
Aye.
In favor, yes.
Opposed? Abstain?